Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr, and today we're going to give a little update on. It's been a little while. I've done game playing of the Best of the 60s, Best of the Decades tournament, the 1960s. I've shown you a couple of games and kind of broadcast those, but I'm going to give you a little update on where we stand now with the Best of the 60s tournament because we are in the elimination bracket. There's 4 teams left, but soon there will only be I guess there's 6 teams left, 3 in each league, but soon there will only be 4 teams left, 2 in each league. So I'm going to give you a little overview of where we stand there and break down the stats and what we're looking at. So in the American League elimination bracket, we have the 1964 Chicago White Sox and the 1969 Baltimore Orioles facing off against one another. Let's take a look at how that series shaped up. In game 1, it was the White Sox who took game 1 5-4 on the pitching of Gary Peters, who allowed 4 earned runs, just 6 hits. He did walk 5, though. He struck out 5, improved to 2-1. Now, the name of this game, though, is the efficiency with which the White Sox scored their runs, because Cuellar, the Baltimore starter, only allowed 5 hits. Of course, he did also walk 5 and struck out 8. But look at this efficiency by the White Sox, as here in the 3rd inning is when they scored their first run with a single from Mike Hirschberger, followed by a RBI double by Jerry McNertney. That got them on the board. And then the 4th inning, Floyd Robinson walked. There's one of those walks, and Pete Ward hit a 2-run homer. This was Ward's 2nd home run of the tournament. That put them up 3-0. Now, Baltimore came right back in the bottom of the 5th and tied things up, as Peters had a very rough inning where he walked Davey Johnson, Merv Redmond hit a double, and then he walked Andy Etchebarren to load the bases with no outs. He tried to get out of that. He struck out Mark Belanger here for the first out, but then ended up walking in a run with Don Buford. He got He got Paul Blair to ground out. They threw this runner out at home for 2 down, but then Frank Robinson followed with a 2-run single, and that tied things up 3-3. However, in the very next inning, Al Weiss led off that inning with a walk, another walk from Cuellar, and Floyd Robinson hit a 2-run shot to put the White Sox back on top 5-3. Now, Frank Robinson would come through again in the bottom of the 8th with a solo homer. And that is his 5th home run of the tournament. And that would get the Orioles to within a run, but that was all they could do, as Hoyt Wilhelm kind of shut the door on them in the 9th, despite a Don Buford single. So, White Sox, despite only having 5 hits, take game 1 5-4. They squeak one by here, despite a decent pitching performance by actually both starters, other than a couple of innings. So, looking for revenge, Baltimore trying to even things up in front of their home crowd in game 2, and it was not to be. They got a good start going when Frank Robinson hit another home run, this time a 2-run shot in the bottom of the 1st off of Juan Pizarro. That was his 6th home run now of the tournament. So they had some momentum going there early, but in the top of the 3rd, facing Phoebus with 2 outs actually, Moose Skowron hit a single, and then Gene Stevens hit a 3-run homer to give the White Sox a 3-2 lead. They would add to that lead in the 7th when Phoebus was forced out of the game. Of course, that was aided by a Boog Powell error. That inning was extended by that, but there's a 3 base hits in a row after that error that led to a couple more runs for the White Sox and gave them a 5-2 lead. Paul Blair would hit a solo shot in the 8th, but that's as close as they would get. And this ended up being 6-3 as Pizarro improves to 3-1, allowing just 3 earned runs on 7 hits. striking out 8 in this one. So White Sox take a 2-0 lead in the series, a best-of-5 series, heading to Chicago for the next 2 games. So Baltimore will have their work cut out for them here. The White Sox have actually won 5 straight games now in the tournament, as they had swept, I don't remember who they played prior to this, but we'll take a look at that bracket here in a minute. Heading over to the National League, we have the 1960 Pirates facing the 1963 Dodgers in also an elimination series. And in Game 1, Sandy Koufax on the mound for the Dodgers facing Vern Law. And Law actually was dueling well with Koufax in this one. In fact, Koufax made one mistake, and that led to a Hal Smith solo home run in the 4th. But Pittsburgh was getting some runners on base. They had base hits in every inning leading up to that. So that solo home run gave the Pirates a 1-0 lead. And Law was shutting down the Dodgers. He retired the first 11 batters he faced before a Wally Moon single here in the 4th. And then after that, proceeded to retire the next 10 batters he faced. So he took a 1-hitter into the 8th inning. A 1-hitter. He had a 1-0 lead and a 1-hitter heading into the bottom of the 8th. And that's when he started to tire a little bit. He allowed base hits to Frank Howard and Ron Fairley to lead off the 8th before getting Ken McMullen to ground into a double play, which he was hoping to get him out of the inning. But then Johnny Roseborough followed with an RBI single to tie the game. Now I follow the auto manager rule, so he was not still ready to come out with just 3, fatigue level of 3 at this point. Actually, not even, because when you have a shutout going, you get an extra inning added to your chances until you lose the shutout. So he lost the shutout here. So he had no fatigue yet, and then allowed a base hit to Willie Davis and another base hit to Maury Wills, and that was the one that put the Dodgers in front, 2-1. Koufax, that was all he would need, though the 9th inning was very interesting as Bob Skinner led off with a single, and after Koufax struck out Dick Stewart, Rocky Nelson had a single to put the tying run on second base. But then Koufax got Roberto Clemente and Hal Smith to pop out to end the game. Koufax, 7 hits allowed in this one, struck out 10, just that 1 earned run. He improves to 3-1 with a 1.54 ERA in the tournament. And so the Dodgers sneak by and steal this one from the Pirates, Game 1. Heading to Game 2, also in LA. Completely different story as the Pirates face off against Don Drysdale in this one. Drysdale is actually cruising through the first 3 innings at least before he actually hit Bill Mazeroski with a pitch, but hadn't allowed a hit into the 4th inning. Meanwhile, Bob Friend on the Pirates had lots of traffic on the base paths pretty much every inning. So the Dodgers had runners on the corners in the 1st before Friend struck out Tommy Davis and Frank Howard to end the inning. Ron Fairley led off the 2nd with a base hit. They had a couple other base hits in the 3rd. And then Ron Fairley again led off with a base hit in the 4th. So lots of traffic for Bob Friend through those first 4 innings, but Dodgers could not score anybody. And after that base hit to lead off the 4th, Friend was lights out pretty much. Meanwhile, the Pirates finally got to Drysdale here in the top of the 4th. Dick Rote actually had a base hit to lead off the inning, but Bob Skinner hit into a double play. But then Dick Stewart hit a solo homer here, and that was Stewart's 6th home run of the tournament. And that gave the Pirates a 1-0 lead. They score again in the next inning when Drysdale just had problem after the 4th. He had problems kind of closing out the innings. Roberto Clemente led off the single, and then Drysdale actually got Smokey Burgess and Don Hoke to pop out. But with 2 outs, he could not finish things as Mazeroski singled and then Bill Verdon singled also to score another run. So that put the Pirates up 2-0. Heading into the 8th, again, multiple base runners out there for Drysdale over the next few innings, but he was able to negotiate and get out of those innings. But then in the 8th, he strikes out Dick Stewart and gets Rocky Nelson to fly out to lead off the inning, but with 2 outs, he allows 3 straight singles, capped by Don Hoch's RBI single to put the Pirates up 3-0. In the 9th, finally, the Dodgers turned it over to Pete Richard, but Richard can't get out of that inning without allowing another run, this time a sac fly from Dick Stewart. But that gave the Pirates a 4-0 lead heading to the bottom of the 9th. Bob Friend closing it out, trying to get that shutout. As again, after that single in the 4th, Friend retired the next 15 batters. But then, Tommy Davis led off the 9th with a base hit. After Frank Howard flew out to center, Don Hoch actually bobbled one to extend the inning. Ken McMullen punished him immediately with an RBI single, put runners on the corners. Johnny Roseborough hit a sac fly to cut the lead to 4-2, but that was all they would get, as Willie Davis would ground out to end the game. So Bob Friend allowed just 1 earned run on 8 hits in this one, struck out 8. Drysdale had a kind of tough start, allowed 12 hits, and the Pirates even the series 1-0 or 1-1, and they'll head to Pittsburgh for the next 3 games of that one. If we take a look at, here it is, folks. Here's the bracket, and here we see, okay, the White Sox beat the Twins in the play-in series. Lost to the Yankees, the 61 Yankees, were the top-seeded team in the tournament. But they swept the Tigers, the 68 Tigers here, and they've won the first 2 games against Baltimore, so that's their 5 straight wins here. The winner of this series will go on to play the 61 Yankees to take the American League Championship into the World Series. Meanwhile, over in the National League, it was the Dodgers who got rid of or dispatched the 68 Cardinals, who were the top-ranked NL or top-seeded NL team, 3-1. And now the series is tied here between Pittsburgh and LA. The winner of this goes on to play the 62 San Francisco Giants, who have been a powerhouse offensively. Of course, with their lineup, you would expect that. Willie Mays, Orlando Cepeda, just a real strong lineup for the Giants. Lots of home runs. I think they lead all teams in homers because they have a real murderer's row there in the middle. So that's what we're looking at here. Let's take a look if we can just here at the. I'm just going to blow this up a little bit so that you guys can see this. I'm going to take a look at the stats. If you're curious to see who the statistical leaders are so far, if I can grab the corner of this to bring it down. There we go. Don't worry, I'm going to blow it up here. Just give me a moment. There we go. And now I'm going to blow this up for you guys so you can actually see something. So in the American League, the offense overall averages are 233 with a 338 ERA, so very pitching heavy. The White Sox have a 9-4 record because of all the games they've played, the play-in and so on. The 5-game winning streak coming, as you see. And 3.20 ERA, 2.39 batting average. The Yankees, who are still waiting in the wings in the American League for the championship, is a 2.46 average, which is almost the highest in the American League. 2.86 ERA, best in the American League. So that's interesting. And then in the National League, just looking at the standings, or the batting averages and such, batting average is a little higher, 2.55. The Giants, look at that, 2.86 batting average. They not only have the highest average, but they have the lowest ERA. So they're sitting looking pretty good there. The Pirates, who are trying to wrestle things away from the Dodgers here, 2.77 batting average, 3.50 ERA. The Dodgers only have a 2.19 batting average, but have still managed to perform pretty well in the series thanks to some pitching when they needed it. Not all the time, though, because that 3.64 ERA isn't that great. But it's kind of where things stand there. Let's take a look at the league leaders, shall we? Let's see who is leading so far in this tournament. Frank Robinson, Baltimore, 429 batting average so far in the tournament, and he leads the American League. Roberto Clemente in the National League with a 400 average, but you kind of see things there. Look at these slugging percentages. Willie McCovey. I forgot about Willie McCovey too. Willie Mays, 821 slugging. Willie McCovey, 795 slugging. Two big slugging percentages here for San Francisco here in the National League. In the American League, Frank Robinson, 796 for Baltimore. He's hoping to continue the series. He has the best OPS of anybody in the tournament. 1,257, followed closely by Willie Mays and Willie McCovey. Mickey Mantle also on that list. He was injured in the last game of the New York series, but he'll be back here for the championship series in the American League. And then take a look at these hitting streaks. We have Philippe Alou for San Francisco has a 9-game hitting streak going. Clemente has a 9-game hitting streak going. So that's pretty good. Frank Robinson, 8-game hitting streak going. Paul Blair so far is the longest of the tournament with 10. But I believe he did not hit safely, and that's why he's dropped off the leaderboard now. Here we are at home runs. We have a trio of people with 6 homers. Frank Robinson, Dick Stewart, and Willie Mays. So that'll be interesting to see how that continues. And then RBI, Frank Robinson, 13 RBI. Willie Mays right behind him with 12, leading the American and National Leagues respectively. Floyd Robinson has 12 walks to have a comfortable lead in that category in the American League, while Dick Stewart is leading the strikeouts with 20, striking out quite a bit. Not a lot of stolen bases overall here in the 1960s. Not a lot of stolen bases, but you have Jim Gilliam leading things with 3. Maury Wills has been caught 3 times. And so that's interesting. I don't think he's been caught every time he's tried, which is pretty interesting there, isn't it? Let's take a look at the pitching leaders. There are going to be names that you would expect. Bill Stafford, actually, with a .53 ERA for New York Yankees, leading things in the American League. But you have Billy O'Dell in the National League with a 1.23 ERA. Koufax, of course, on that list. Joe Horland for the White Sox. I believe he'll be pitching in the final game for them with a 1.38. Very, very good. Hoyt Wilhelm and Ron Perinoski leading with 3 saves in the American and National Leagues, respectively. Let's take a look here. Koufax, 37 strikeouts. He does not walk very many either. So he has, 2 walks, 37 strikeouts and 2 walks. That's a pretty good breakdown, isn't it? Let's see. Drysdale has given up 9 homers. That's been his downfall here when he's been pitching. Hal Reniff, a reliever for the Yankees with 3 wild pitches, which is pretty crazy. But look at this. Look at this whip from Koufax. 714. 714 whip from Koufax. Crazy. Meanwhile, if you're looking at how many double plays are induced, Gary Peters has induced 7 to lead things off. So pretty good for him. And that's your breakdown for the American and National League leaders. Now, as always, let's shrink this back down. As always, if you want to follow the action, head over to baseballmaelstrom.com. You can see the projects I have going right now. I have the Best of the Decades 1960s tournament, but I've already finished the 1930s and the 1990s tourneys. So you can check those out if you're curious. You can find all the stats for those, write-ups on every game, the bracket, and all that fun stuff. I also have the other current league that I have going is my Payoff Pitch League, which is a Hall of Fame league. Well, 3 teams of Hall of Famers in the National and American leagues, and 1 team of great players not in the Hall of Fame in each of those leagues, battling it out. And that's what you see down here with the standings and so forth. Some fictional team names, real team cities or real MLB cities, but fictional team names for that one since it's kind of a fantasy project. And that one's winding up. because I play a third of a season, 54-game season in that one. And I believe we have about 9 games left. So 9 games left in that 9 days left, I should say. There's about 4 games per day. So, 9 games left in the season on that one. It's been very interesting to see how that's panned out. So you can check that out as well. See all the stats again. Just click the appropriate tab at the top or drop down. Take a look at the stats. And you can see a full stat breakdown and all that fun stuff. So that's where we'll leave things today. Just a little short update on the Best of the 60s tournament, since things are kind of winding down a little bit. Once we're done with this elimination bracket, which is best of 5 also, we'll head into the American and National League Championship Series. And again, since these teams are coming up out of the elimination bracket, if they win, so for example, if the White Sox don't blow things in the next 3 games and they advance to play the Yankees, and let's say they beat the Yankees in the first series, best of 5 series, they will then play a best of 7 series, winner take all, for the American League, because the Yankees haven't lost a series yet, whereas the White Sox have. Likewise, in the National League, whoever, the Pirates or the Dodgers, whoever wins that series, will play the Giants. They'll have to beat them in 2 series in order to advance. Then we'll head to the World Series between the top American League and top National League team. That is a best of 7, of course, and I broadcast all 7 of those games, all up to 7 of those games. So be looking forward to that as well. As always, if you want to follow this action, or you want to follow the testing I've done or the play I've done on the latest Payoff Pitch PC game that's coming out, be sure to click that subscribe button. Like the video if you like it. Give me some feedback, comments, whatever you'd like down in the comments below. But that's where we will leave things today. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate the support. And until next time, by the way, on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting closer, folks, but it's going to take a while, I think. Unless we have a lot of subscribers all of a sudden. But getting closer. And so thanks again. Until next time, have a great evening.